During the season of Lent, we have been focusing our thoughts on what it means to spend time in the wilderness. That is, times filled with uncertainty, temptation, suffering, and trials, times when we face the unknown. Last week, on Palm Sunday, we read collectively the story of the Passion of Christ, a story which began with celebration, but which ended in uncertainty. During our journey through Holy Week, we faced yet another trek through the wilderness. After Jesus' triumphal entry, the week began like a seemingly normal week. Yet Jesus knew what was in store. On Thursday of that week, Jesus and his disciples gathered for the traditional Passover meal. Knowing this was not just any Passover meal, however, Jesus does something very unusual. He washes the feet of his disciples. He was demonstrating for them once again how they should behave toward each other and toward others, with hearts full of tenderness, with hearts bent toward service. It is also at this meal that Jesus makes it known that he is aware of the impending betrayal by one of his own. Later that same evening, he makes it known that all of his disciples will abandon him in his hour of need. It is at this point that this week, which had begun with a sense of celebration, took a sudden turn, and the disciples entered a wilderness much worse than any they had ever previously experienced. In less than 24 hours, they will have gone from sharing a meal with each other and their beloved friend and teacher to floundering to understand into what fresh horror they had come. It is in this state of limbo, of fear, of hiding, where they must remain for what must have seemed like ages. Then comes Sunday morning, Easter, the day of resurrection, a day which for us has become a time of celebration, of much pomp and circumstance, and rightly so. Yet, this glorious morn so many years ago arrived quietly and without flourish. This morning, the sun arose on a hushed garden where some women had come to fulfill their solemn duty, the quiet ritual wherein these devoted followers would prepare and anoint the body of their beloved Jesus. This plan was quite suddenly interrupted, however, by an earthquake and the arrival of an angel from heaven. The only people there to witness the extraordinary event were these two women and some guards who had been sent to be sure no one broke into the tomb. But even the guards fell to the ground in fear, so that the only ones to receive the angel's message were the two women. As is so often the case, God's message is delivered in the least expected way. I'm reminded of the the Gospel of John's account of the resurrection, wherein Mary Magdalene is alone when Jesus, whom she mistakenly believes is the gardener, appears to her and asks whom she seeks. She implores him to tell her where he has placed Jesus' body so that she may tend to it. His response is simply to speak her name. And she immediately recognizes him. I'm reminded of the prophet Elijah, who went to the mouth of the cave to meet God. There he witnessed a very strong wind that caused mountains to fall apart and rocks to break. Then he experienced an earthquake and then a fire. Yet it was only after these events that God spoke in a still, small voice. I'm reminded of the words of the psalmist who wrote, "Be still and know that I am God." And so, my friends, I invite you this morning to take a moment to be still. On this day of celebration and revelry, this day when we ring bells and rattle the noisemakers, we sing and shout our A words, all of which is appropriate and coming soon. First, however, let us, like those women who first encountered the empty tomb, absorb the silence and be still. Be still. Be still. Be still and know God. That the significance and the profound mystery of this day be not lost. As the Reverend Dr. J. Barrington Bates reminds us, this is the resurrection of Jesus. No thunder or displays of divine pyrotechnics. No booming voice from heaven. No majesty. No pomp. Just an ordinary guy blending with the crowd, cooking fish on the beach, breaking bread at the dinner table, comforting his friends. This day we pause from the frenzy of our lives for this great vigil. We have made ourselves still so that we can notice for ourselves Jesus has been raised from the dead.